We love Zencaster because it allows us to record the audio for our podcast and create the video segments we use for our weekly Sister Scoop episodes. Zencaster has helped us make content capture simple.
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests, and feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable.
If you've thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast in one place and distribute it to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations.
Just go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code SistersAssembled, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all of our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Katie and I are always hungry, and one snack we both love is beef jerky. That's why we're so excited to tell you about one of our favorite jerky brands, Matt Hat Jerky.
Matt Hat's delicious taste makes it a great snack, and the variety of flavors, including original, black truffle, and my personal favorite, roasted garlic, means there's a flavor for everyone. Plus, it's local to the area where we grew up in, which we just love.
Use the link in the show notes below to get some Matt Hat Jerky for yourself, and make sure to use our coupon code SistersAssembled for 10% off. Hello and welcome to Sisters Assembled, your home for all things MCU. We are continuing our coverage this week of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, this time focusing on all things Episode 6. So with that said, that means we are going to be filled with spoilers. If you have not yet watched Episode 6 of Season 2, please make sure that you're doing that before clocking back into our episode. You're going to get a whole lot more out of it and not have the episode spoiled. So that's also a bonus. With all of that being said, Katie, I'm going to toss it over to you so you can get us started.
Yeah, this episode, it was interesting because it felt like we should be entering the finale. And I guess we are. Because if you listen to anything that anybody really talks about, like any of the cast members, they've talked about, the last two episodes, right, are going to be kind of like, wow. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm kind of looking at it as a 2-part finale. And this was that episode that was leading into it. We are kind of setting up all our chess pieces. We are moving everybody into place. We're preparing for everybody. And it felt that way, but in a good way. Like, I feel like we've moved everything forward the way we need to move it forward in order to prepare for something absolutely crazy in the next 2 episodes.
Interesting. I feel like I was surprised by this episode because I feel like there's still a lot of ground to cover to get to where we're going. Like, I really thought that there would be a lot more ratcheting up. Like, and maybe some of it is the hype that the cast has kind of caused in some of their interviews, because they have really been talking in hyping up those, to your point, those last 2 episodes, and they're going to be crazy. And especially the last 5 to 10 minutes is going to be insane and all these things. And I don't know, I guess I just feel like, yeah, there was a level of intensity, and we'll dive into all the different places that has ratcheted up this episode. But I really felt like I was waiting for more. And I think part of that comes from Kingpin had, I think, such an interesting, the way he was coping with Vanessa's death, I think, was so opposite what everyone was expecting, right? We expected him to fly off the handle. And he did. I mean, he murdered the doctor in the room. So, like, at that point,
But also kind of fair, because that doctor was, like, low-key asking for it. I was like, buddy, walk away. Leave the room.
It was definitely, he was not reading the signals of what was happening.
No.
Not that he deserved to die for that, but he definitely was, like, not understanding. I
literally was like, this man's about to die. Like, I was like, why? Just stop talking and walk away.
Oh, I mean, yes, it was obvious he was going to die, but I almost had to, this is going to sound terrible, I almost, like, chuckled a little bit, because all I could think was, oh, it's starting, like, it's happening. But then it was like he took all of his anger out on the doctor, and then he went almost catatonic, which, I mean, is a very fair and I would say, like, normal reaction. That's how people, not everyone, but that's how some people react to extremely stressful and emotionally turbulent experiences. But it's the exact opposite end of the spectrum that I think a lot of us thought that
Yeah, for
Kingpin
sure.
was going to do. And so I think that really played a lot into my perception of the episode, because I was expecting like boom, boom, hit you over the face. It's going to get wild. And instead, we saw this Kingpin who literally doesn't care about anything and actually just stares into space now because his whole like reason for living died on that hospital bed.
Yeah, I will say I didn't have really an issue so much with his reaction, although we did obviously anticipate it to go a different way. I think it was more, and maybe I was just confused. I think I lost somewhere in the middle of the episode where obviously there were a lot of people, like we saw memorials for Vanessa, like we saw people clearly like upset, and they talk about it at one point saying like, but a lot of people were angry, and they're talking about like, but not the way that we want them to be, like this is like Karen talking. But then at the end we're seeing like a bunch of people protesting, and like you're seeing kind of things hit the fan. And I think I somewhere in the middle of the episode kind of lost the plot quite literally, and I didn't really know, because I was like, I guess from like the perspective of the end of last episode, right, we're like, hey, this is only going to help his case, this is
Mm-hmm.
only going to help Kingpin and only going to help the anti-vigilante task force and all this stuff because of what just happened. Not only did we not get this big blowout from Kingpin, which was fine, that really, I was like, I'm okay with this going this other direction as well. I think I just got confused because somehow the tide shifted entirely against him, and maybe I just missed something, but I just was like, shouldn't this have garnered support for him? Like, I guess I'm just lost on where like things are hitting the fan for him completely.
Yeah, I do. That one's tough because I also was a little confused there. I think it's interesting because I feel like Vanessa's death is actually just like the most polarizing thing that could have happened. I think we were expecting it to be, oh, it's going to so clearly create sympathy for Kingpin, just like you just said. But
Yeah.
instead, it created a further divide, right?
Yeah.
So anybody who was maybe not directly affected by the Safer Streets Act, or maybe not really all that opposed because they were predisposed to not like vigilantes and things like that. I think that pushed them further to be in support of the mayor. But I think overall he's just so incredibly um unpopular at this point that even his wife being murdered by quote unquote a vigilante, because bullseye gray area, um does not really engender any feelings of support or sympathy with people. And I think, he has been oppressing the people of New York for so long that there was nothing that was going to garner support. And so it kind of got to this place where it was almost like, and I don't want to say this in the sense that I disagree with the protesters, because obviously I think the Safer Streets Act is terrible, and the metaphor for, or the reflection of what it is also terrible in real
Yeah.
life. But I think it was almost like he's weaker now, right? Like, or even a sense of, you caused this, like this is the direct ramifications of your own actions. If you hadn't gone against the vigilantes in the way that you did, you and your wife would not have been in the crossfire. I don't think the general populace understands the very personal and deep dynamics between Daredevil and Kingpin and Bullseye, and all of the history among the three of them. That really means the Vigilante Act and the Safer Streets Act don't matter. Bullseye was going to come for them no matter what.
Yeah.
But the average New Yorker isn't going to understand that. So I think they kind of view it as this sense of, well, you started this, he finished it.
Yeah, which I think is totally fair. And like I said, I think, you know, I obviously agree with the protesters as well. I think it just seemed very confusing to me because I
I
just
don't
didn't
disagree.
understand. I'm sorry?
I don't disagree. I also was kind
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah,
head tilt.
I just like, I didn't really quite understand how we got there. Like, I just was
Yeah.
like, I mean, good. Like, I'm obviously not rooting for Kingpin by any means, but I just was a little confused because I was like, I just don't understand how we just everything turned so far against him. Now, obviously, and we'll get a little bit further into this in a second, the Mr. Charles of it all with the governor and things of that nature. Obviously, that's going to hurt him as well. but it definitely, I just was shocked at how much the public sentiment was actually against him during all this. And I hear what you said, like, oh, well, you started this, they finished it kind of idea, and whatever. And that could be possible as well. I just think it was just a very strange, like, I don't know. It just seemed very unclear to me the way it kind of panned out in the long run. And to your point, then, because we didn't see Kingpin really have this meltdown, I think we were anticipating him having, I think it just kept garnering, like, okay, it's getting there. It's getting there. It's getting there, which is why I feel like the next two episodes, that's when it's like, okay, now we're going back down the roller coaster. Like, we're currently climbing it. But it was interesting because I think I expected a little bit of, like, almost like a fake drop, like a little bit of something to go down, and like things did, but I do think it just felt a lot like we were kept rising during this, and like we're gearing up for these last two episodes because we never had like a Kingpin meltdown.
Yeah. I liked the way that they kind of subverted expectations with him, in the way that he, again, was basically catatonic versus, I'm going to scream, I'm going to, break walls, I'm going to do all these things, I'm going to kill a bunch of people, all this stuff, which was the expectation. I kind of liked that they were like, let's actually go the opposite direction of what you think, and
Yeah.
he's going to react in a way that you're not expecting. But at the same time, it does create some like plot challenges, because I think, to what you were saying, there was this like escalation at Vanessa's memorial that was kind of hard to understand why it was happening. And in that exact moment, like, obviously I understand why it's happening, but like,
Yeah.
why that moment, that time. And I think one of the things that I hope isn't the case is that, we know that the resistance has been building. It's something that we've seen kind of throughout the different episodes in subtle ways, and not so subtle ways. And Karen mentions, her work with the resistance and things like that. But at the same time, I don't want it to be like, oh, that was already just like they were going to protest him anyway, and they had chosen around this time. They just chose to, activate at Vanessa's memorial site because it was convenient. Like, that just, to me, I don't know, it's weaker, I think, than if Kingpin had absolutely gone off the handle, and escalated even more the situation to really, I mean, the city, I would say he's extremely unpopular in the city as it is, but to really kind of ratchet up his unpopularity so that you can understand then why the city has chosen this moment, this time to turn on him, whereas here it was a little bit more muddy.
Yeah. No, I think that's the best way to describe it. It definitely was more muddy, and it just was a little unclear on what was like that final moment, because I do think from the standpoint of watching the show the way we've watched it, it wasn't anticipated to go that way. And I'm
Yeah.
not just saying from us being like, oh, using our critical thinking and what we've thought has happened the past 5 episodes and things of that nature. I think general consensus within the fandom was not that we thought that was going to go that way at all. So it is very interesting how it's like all playing out. The only thing that I was kind of trying to figure out was, obviously we see, and this is kind of that Mr. Charles conversation a wee bit. Obviously we see that he takes the guns from the warehouse, which are not his to take.
Mm-hmm.
He's moving those for Mr. Charles and whoever Mr. Charles is, fully working for. He is moving these guns, and he takes them and literally gives them to the anti-vigilante task force.
Yeah.
Now, there is a comment made somewhere in the show, and I don't remember who makes it. I don't remember when it's made, but about, everybody's starting to see people disappear. Like, everybody's starting to get affected. So I was kind of trying to understand the timeline here, because I was like, well, let's say for a second, let's just play. Now, again, this is far too much thinking I should have to do for something. This should be way more explained to me
Mm-hmm.
than this. But let's just play this game. So let's say it's been even 4 days, right? Because I mean, obviously funerals happen quickly, but they don't inherently happen like the next day. There's
Yeah.
still logistics, regardless of whether you're the mayor of New York City or not. And actually, if you're the mayor of New York City, I feel like those logistics probably have to be a lot more intense,
Yeah.
and everything else. So let's give it a couple days. Let's pretend he moves those guns on day one, and that the anti-vigilante task force was actually given the command to kind of go hard, essentially, like all stops are pulled, do what you got to do. That's when I could have maybe understood. That's when they decided to protest. And that's when the city finally was like, enough is enough of this.
Yeah.
Because we also see an uptick in the anti-vigilante task force and their violence. And that one guy is like Powell or whatever,
Oh,
amazing actor. Like, nothing obviously against the actor himself. He's doing a great job. But bro, every time that man's on my screen, I am feeling such violence in my
yes.
body. Like, I don't know. And he reminds me of someone too. And I wish I could like put my finger on who exactly he's reminding me of. But he just irks me so hard.
Yeah.
But either way, like, we're seeing this escalation of the anti-vigilante task force. So it's like, I'm wondering if maybe there's a bit of a couple days in there that we don't really see. And they're escalating across the city, in which case this protest now breaks out because of that.
I think that's possible. I honestly though, now that you say that, I think what's more likely is that he was prepping for the escalation. Like I don't actually think it's fully happened yet because if I'm going to like put on my kingpin hat for a second, which is honestly hard to do because I'm not, a sociopath, but
Right. Are you sure?
rude and uncalled
I
for.
just asking.
Last I checked. But if I'm going to try to put myself in his shoes, I would not want to create all this violence, create more, negative feelings toward myself and my family, because I'm sure he is aware that not everybody is feeling sad that Vanessa died, right? I'm sure there's a lot
Yeah.
of like people who are like, well, you made your bed, now you're gonna lie in it. Like you married this crazy man, and this crazy man, took over New York, and this is what happens. And so I'm sure he's thinking about not making the situation around trying to protect her final, like going into her final resting place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I could see him saying, okay, when I have buried Vanessa and when she is resting, then I will go to war. But until then, like that's what I'm going to focus on and whatever. And so that's why I feel like he was moving the guns. He was going to take them for the anti-vigilante task force in preparation for whatever his plan to double down was. But then when Daredevil and Jessica went in and blew it up, obviously that literally blew up his plans as well. So that's kind of more what I would think happened versus like it would be super unfortunate if they ratcheted up the violence and, the basically enforcement of the Safer Streets Act and did that off screen because I think that does a disservice to the story.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. And maybe that is exactly how that was. It was more of a prep than it had already happened. And the protests were happening in maybe just like kind of that same vacuum of anticipation, just knowing something worse is probably coming. But yeah, I mean, I know we're kind of skipping around a little bit. I want to talk about Jessica
Yeah.
because
I don't think you want me to go first, so I think you should go first.
there were a lot of levels to this.
Mhm.
First and foremost, I think we all already knew she had a kid.
Yes.
I think that was like going into
Yeah.
this knowledge we all had. But there were like things about this that bothered me. The first being, is this the only time we're seeing her?
That was my number one concern. And I know I've
Yeah.
seen people talking about it online too. Like, why are you hype? Like, she was in almost all of the trailers.
Correct.
You are hyping up Jessica Jones and her return for her to be, she was in the episode for 10 minutes, not even. Like,
Not even
5 to 8 minutes max. And it would, like, I liked her storyline in the sense that, like, I am curious. Let me put it this way. I liked her storyline in the sense that I can see how this will lead into her potential spin-off show 100%. And I'm
100%.
like, I'm good with I'm good with that, but I'm like, I like this storyline. Let's continue to build it out. However, if you put that woman in every single trailer for 5 to 8 minutes of screen time, I will throw something.
Yeah, so I struggled with that because she didn't even make it the whole episode.
No.
Came in, blew up the guns, left. And I was like, right. And then, okay. So then I was really bothered by the whole, like, now her powers are going in and out. and at first I was like, who's Danielle? It's her daughter.
Yeah.
Which because I was like,
I do want to just say really quickly, but not to slow your roll here, but her daughter Dani in the comics is the daughter that she has with Luke Cage.
Correct.
So unless they're gonna pull a switcheroo and a gotcha, it is nearly confirmed that Luke is the father of her child.
Yes. But that really bothered me. I'm not really a big fan of that direction. I'm sure that, to your point, if there's a spinoff that's going to happen, I'm sure that'll be part of this. But I'm really not a fan of it. I'm also not a fan of the fact that not only have they now made her abilities inconsistent and it's blamed entirely on the fact, like her pregnancy essentially, but she also like literally almost died. Like it took Matt saving her because she almost was shot by Powell. And so it's like, it's just aggravating because if you guys have watched Jessica Jones, like we know this girl is like crazy in a good way and can completely handle herself. And it just, which is weird. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I just was like, wow, we are really just taking that away from her, aren't we? Like we are just obliterating how she at least was before. And this is her debut in the MCU.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here. I'm so glad you said that about the pregnancy thing because I actually wasn't really thinking about it too much. I was like, oh, interesting. Because here's the thing, and I'm not going to justify it. But I am going to say, Jessica, a lot of her journey, and especially the first season, maybe season and a half, is about learning about the origins of her powers and what actually happened to her after her family's crash, where they came from, and things like that. So I do think there is something interesting there about what still remains unknown about her powers and how that kind of continues that red thread about the things that she just doesn't know about herself because people made choices about her body for her. And so I think that I don't hate that, right? Like I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I do see 100% what you're saying. The idea of, oh, she had a kid and now she lost, her powers are inconsistent, feels very much woman written by a man, which is like not what we want to see. I also 100% agree with you that taking away her ability to hold her own is hugely frustrating. I think she is such an inspiring character in that way. Like she has had so much trauma throughout her life, starting, obviously as a child, and then everything that happens with Kilgrave. And she gets to this place where she's like, I can take care of myself. And like, obviously she's coping. Her coping mechanisms need some work for a lot of it. But, she's still able to very much handle herself. And that's such an important part of her character, especially in her own show. And I would hate to see that go away. Now, if you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, if you're going to make that storyline where her powers are on the fritz because of something unknown that happened with Dani, when she was giving birth or, as she was pregnant, I guess is the best way to put it. And you're going to explore the origins of that and then fix it in her own show, kind of akin to her exploring the origins of her own powers in the early seasons. I'm actually okay with that because I think that, again, kind of continues those storylines and then also does a lot to avoid negating her power and who she is and the trope of, oh, she's a mom now, she's not as powerful as she was, because we don't need to play in that area. I would also like to think that Kristen Ritter would not sign on to that type of storyline for her character. I think she is someone who respects Jessica as a character too much to be like, oh no, we're going to do this whole storyline where she's actually not as powerful as she used to be because she's a mom. And also in light of, like, for example, Fantastic Four, where Sue's power was, I mean, she's obviously like physically powerful, but a lot of her power in the movie is because she's a mom, and that's huge. It's an important and revered part of her character. I would hate to see the same studio then turn around 7 months later and be like, actually, being a mom makes you weak. No.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's not it, and that it was just unfortunately played out.
Yeah.
Like, it was just they missed a little. And that's all it is. And as we move forward, that's not the reality. I'm just hoping that's a fact, because I agree. I mean, even down to like before Sue, you had Wanda and all these like, these are our first powerful mothers that we're seeing that are
Right.
superheroes. So I definitely would like to think that's not the direction we're going, and it just missed its mark
Yeah.
the 5 seconds she was in the show.
Or like I said, they're setting up to make that something
Yeah.
that she's discovering about herself. Because I think the other thing to think about here is like something that is interesting that's almost been tapped a little bit. I'm thinking, especially in Fantastic Four, Wanda's a little different because her kids aren't biological. Unclear. I don't even want to broach that subject. But like thinking about the actual genetics of it all, the hereditary, and obviously Sue got her powers differently than Jessica did, but like how are these, for lack of better terms, like mutations or genetic anomalies? I don't know, man. Genetic anomalies then like passed on. Let's not forget, if Luke is Danny's dad, she's got it from the other side too. So like,
Yeah.
that's, and obviously he didn't carry Danny, but like so then what are her powers? And that's something I just don't know from the comics, but like how are they going to play that out, in the MCU too? So it could be interesting to kind of explore the genetics and the hereditariness of superpowers, but only if they then fix what they've done to Jessica, because her autonomy is like extremely important and something that we will be watching for them to fix mighty quickly.
Yeah. One, and now again, we circle back to, is this it?
Right.
Like, are we seeing her again? Is she coming back for the last 2 episodes? Are we going to wait till next season? Like, it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little frustrated with that, because to your point, the marketing all pointed one way, and now it's like, oh, no, those were all the scenes we saw in the trailer. So,
yeah,
not feeling great about that. But, we like that she was there. I really enjoyed that she knew about Mr. Charles, because to me, that means that as we move forward with whatever story they're going to tell with her, we now have our through line. And we're going to find out more about this character, because let's be real, we don't know much about him at all. And I don't anticipate us learning much more about him in the next 2 episodes, because we have to wrap up to some degree this show. And so, I'm excited to know we're probably going to have a further storyline now with him. Hopefully, maybe he is considered the main villain of whatever that's going to be in the future, because I'd really like to, dive into him. But I want to talk about him in relation to the whole kingpin thing, because he has his hand in a lot. I mean, he went right to the governor and was like, I have what you want here. And that ended up being she could pull her support from Kingpin, and that kind of lit the fuse, I think.
Well, and let's not miss that line where she's like something, I think she says, I told you never to come here again, or somehow indicating that they have known each other. And I think that that's fascinating, because they made such a big deal in earlier episodes about how she's so squeaky clean and all these things, and then you're like, I wonder how she got so squeaky clean, and maybe she had, some help from some people who were good at covering things up, also known as the CIA. So that just adds like a little bit of depth and layers to her character as well, that she's not exactly a stranger to Mr. Charles. But I hear what you're saying too, as well as him basically using her as a pawn to apply the pressure to Kingpin, because I know what we talked about last episode was, Kingpin is becoming an unreliable partner. Not only is he unreliable, but he straight up double crossed Mr. Charles in this episode. Yeah. And then when Mr. Charles was trying to like lay down the law, Kingpin was like, I'm too emotional for this, but I'm not actually going to show my emotion. hang up the phone. I was like, man just doesn't care anymore. So Mr.
Yeah,
Charles knows he has
literally.
no leverage. He's literally working with someone who, honestly, I don't know that Kingpin, like, and I don't say this lightly at all. I don't know that Kingpin cares if he lives or dies at this point. Like, he is like
Fair.
completely, you just see him, I envision him just like out in the ether. He just does not care. He's just living in his own world of sadness right now. And I do feel bad for him on that level. But to circle back to Mr. Charles, he's double crossed him. And we did talk last episode about Mr. Charles kind of being the thing that brought down Kingpin. And I think we thought it was maybe going to happen a little differently, where they would, you know, undermine Kingpin, kind of expose what he was doing. He didn't do exactly that, but he went to the governor instead. And basically the tactic may have been different, but the strategy was the same, of removing him or making it harder for him in his legitimate job as mayor, and
Yeah.
basically squeezing him that way. So in some ways we were right on, which was pretty cool. I do think that Mr. Charles, in the next couple of episodes, I don't know how much we're going to see him. I think he
Fair.
is, to your point, going to be the kind of big bad in some ways to our street level heroes, because remember, we have to, I don't know that we have to replace Kingpin, but Kingpin is no longer going to be mayor coming out of this season. So like, what is that next kind of level up in terms of what are we fighting? Mr. Charles is an interesting option. I don't know if you caught that interesting line that Jessica said about how, yes, he was calling her, but he was also calling other known superpowered individuals. And she has this like snarky line where she's like, and some people like agreed with him and wanted to work with him. I took that as Luke, and that's
I
why
also took that as Luke.
yeah, they may not be a super happy family at the moment, which I think is interesting. So I, you know, knowing that he's potentially breaking up that, not breaking up, but causing challenges and rifts in that couple, I could see him actually being someone who, you know, is very interested in learning about superpowered individuals, therefore playing into that potential storyline with Jessica about her powers and learning about them and why, you know, her pregnancy may have affected them. And then you go back and tie it back to who is Mr. Charles a big friend of or a good friend of? Obviously, Valentina, who was very, very interested in human experimentation. We're looking at Sentry. So now you start to
Yeah.
see how things are connecting, and it's like, oh, this is very interesting. So, regardless of whether or not we see Mr. Charles in the last 2 episodes of the season, which, like I said, I feel like we're going to go more like Kingpin, Daredevil, like that's going to be kind of where we're having the conflict. I think we're going to continue to see him throughout future like street level properties, whether it's a season 3 of Daredevil or a rebooted Jessica Jones show that, mind you, still hasn't been confirmed, but I'm just going to act like it has, because I think he's kind of showing some interest in these characters as a group, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect to see him much either in the last 2 episodes, because I expect the last 2 episodes to kind of just be like, oh God.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't really think we need to see him either, because I think we see where he holds the power and he kind of gets to pull the strings where he wants to pull the strings.
Yeah.
Even though at times throughout the season, it kind of seemed like, oh, well, Kingpin has, you know, clearly frustrated him or not listened to him. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, we went into the season knowing Mr. Charles was going to put the squeeze on him. Like, we
Yeah.
knew that there was going to be a dynamic in which Mr. Charles was actually the big, you know, the predator versus the prey here. And I think the season did a good job at kind of showing how Kingpin thinks he has control of situations, but at the end of the day, he never actually does. Mr. Charles has his hands in a whole lot more than Kingpin could even imagine, and they even have that conversation. That's the conversation Mr. Charles tried to say to him was, your little New York is not the biggest problem for me.
You're
are
a
not
big
my
fish in a
biggest
small
problem.
pond. I'm a bigger fish
Exactly.
in a much bigger pond.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I do think it's been pretty interesting to see him on screen, and hopefully we'll see him again. To your point, we actually haven't been greenlit anything with Jessica Jones, although I'd imagine she's going to have something relatively kind of soon.
Yeah.
But I do want to, we have to talk about Daredevil and Kingpin,
Yeah.
because we're back to these two. And actually, you know what? Before we even talk about them, we actually have to talk about Daredevil and Karen.
Yeah.
Now, I hate agreeing with Karen. It like actually is like my least favorite thing I get to do. Um, I don't even dislike Karen. That's the thing. She never really, just as a character, never really hits for me. I don't know.
I feel like I never bonded with Karen, and more often than not, I find her frustrating, which is so annoying
she's always
because
doing something stupid.
Yeah, and then like
Yeah.
not to compare women because that's awful, but just like thinking about, for example, Claire, right? She's amazing. And I love her both with Daredevil and I love her even more with Luke and like their relationship, even though Luke is obviously destined for Jessica because we love them as a couple. But, I really liked her character. So it's not
same.
like I don't know. There was just something about Karen from the get that I was like,
I agree.
frustrate me.
I just never really took to her.
Yeah.
I still have not.
No.
But I agree with her.
I do
and
not.
that sucks. Did you say you don't agree with her? Oh, I do.
I think you and I have been subtly having this debate all season as well.
I mean, we have.
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree with her, and I think she really, okay. It's Deborah, right?
Yeah.
She laid it on the line in this episode.
She did.
I mean, again, not a Karen fan, but I was like, girl, go off. Say your piece, and you're doing it well. Because the thing that I think because we have to think too, she has almost this weird outside perspective because she's been involved in all of this, but not in the nitty gritty. This is the first time she's like really, really like she's just as wanted as Matt / Daredevil. Yeah. Like she is absolutely 100% both feet in, like she's swimming. And so I do think she has such an interesting perspective though, because at one point she even says, you let him live and somebody else we care about dies. And then you let him live again and somebody else we care about dies. And she's like, why don't they die? We never let them die. and maybe she hangs out with Frank too much. But I think she's right. I mean, at this point, look at where we're at. I mean, we also just watched freaking Pal shoot another one of their which was awful. That I could not believe. That's what I mean. That man is a nutcase. But like,
I really don't like him.
He's a nutcase. But like, that was another friend of the resistance, if you will, and dead. I mean, it's just a consistent problem at this point, and they don't care. They do not care. So I think this argument with her and Matt had to happen because also now she's sitting here trying to nurse Bullseye back. And I think that will, listen, when she had the gun to his head, now obviously I think I never want Bullseye to leave my screen. So I personally was like, no. But from her perspective, I was like, I get it.
Well, the crazy thing. Go ahead.
Well, regardless of like why he justifies it, because he's like, well, it was Vanessa and now I killed Vanessa. And it's like, so he's like, so shouldn't we be good? But like, that's not it. Like Karen's like, no, you killed Foggy, period, the end. You just like are a psychopath and you've done a million other things that are bad. And Matt just keeps forgiving you because he thinks everybody deserves forgiveness. And that's just like, not it. And I just, I already agreed with her, but I was like, no, girl, say your point because you're not wrong. I don't think you can win this fight without killing one of them, killing some of them at this point.
Well, I actually think that Bullseye was kind of cracking me up because he was like literally in this bed egging Karen on like to kill him. And I was like, you're actually unwell. Like, sir, like that's why you were on. I mean, he was like sedated out of his mind. So I don't want to say that that's what he deserved, but he clearly had some sort of mental instability going on because who literally is like, wow, they just stapled me shut from a gunshot wound and instead I'm going to ask this girl to blow my head off full well knowing she really wants to, just kind of unhinged and very in character for him. And I too don't want him to die. I look, I hear everything you're saying, right? Like and we've talked about this, the fact that the good guys never really make any progress because they are held back by their moral code. But I have said it in this episode or in the season as we've gone through it, and Matt said it in this episode, what separates us from them if we choose to take a life? And I think that is a very valid argument, and it is something that you have to consider. Do the ends justify the means? And I don't know that they necessarily do. And the thing is, Karen even says, what I did to Wesley keeps me up every night. Or keeps me up at night.
She doesn't regret it.
But maybe Matt doesn't want that sitting on his conscience. Notice how,
Matt doesn't need to kill him. Honestly, at this point, but she's
Karen
also loose.
She's also
put her in the Daredevil mask and let her go, because honestly, she's got the right idea.
But I know, but she's also talking about killing Kingpin, and she's not going to do that. Like, realistically, she is asking him to do that.
Matt killed Kingpin all the way back 5 seasons ago, we wouldn't be here.
Right. But that's also like the core of who Matt is. Like, you were asking him to fundamentally change his values. But he's also
stopped other people from killing Kingpin.
Right. You are asking him to fundamentally change his values.
Hey,
this is also a man.
That, honestly, though, I don't even care that Matt won't kill him at this point. Stop stopping other people. Like, he should. I mean, she did die, but like, let Bullseye kill Vanessa. Like, let them do what they want to do. You are not responsible for the morality of every vigilante or person who somewhat is like on the outskirts of that title. And you know, this is where Mac frustrates me a little, because he has this moral compass that he like, and you know what? This is what it is. I just relate to Frank. I hear it from Frank's right. But like, Frank has said that to him too. Like, pretty much, you don't get to decide what everybody else does just because you think that your morals are better than mine. Like, that's their argument. He's right.
But Matt is arguing, like, he's not arguing to kill someone, he's arguing to save a life, which I would say
a bad one. Here's the thing.
Right, but think about the flashback with Foggy last episode.
No.
What did Foggy teach us? Mercy.
No.
That is what Foggy, like, that's what he wanted.
And
that's
Matt
what he
has given
proposed.
mercy for 5 seasons.
I understand
how many
but you
years
were
have
talking
passed?
about the heart of this character. Think about this character. He was raised in the Catholic Church as an orphan. Think about how ingrained some of these values are. In asking him to take a life, you are asking him to fundamentally change everything
I'm not even
he taught
asking
and
him
who he
to take the life anymore.
But also to know, that he could have stopped someone from dying, regardless of who it is, because remember what Foggy said, it is not our job to be judge, jury, and executioner.
But here's the thing. If you knew, this is a golden question. If you knew that somebody was going to leave jail and murder, let's say 20 people. I don't know what Bullseye's kill count is at, but let's say 20.
Way higher than that.
I mean, since Vanessa released him.
It's still way higher than that.
Okay, 40. Let's say 40.
I think that's conservative as well.
Okay, that's fine. We'll leave it at 40.
Think about he like literally started his spree by like shucking his tooth at that poor guard and like killed him with his tooth.
Yes, he did.
That was like bodies 1 and 2, and he hadn't even left the jail yet.
Well, here's my point though. If you knew that person was going to go on to kill 40 people, and you could kill them right now and save 40 lives, you're telling me that one person's life is just as valuable as the 40 people they're going to go on and kill?
This sounds like a morality question. Like one of those, like, you know, like what is it? The train conundrum, where it's like, do you like turn the train to kill one person, or do you turn the train to kill like 20 people?
It's always one.
Right. But you very rarely do you ever know that. And let's not forget, Matt is the one who released him from prison.
I just have to say though, at the end of the day, and this is where Karen's point is at this point, is had Kingpin died even 3 years ago at this point, half the people that he has killed or inadvertently killed or had killed would not be dead. And it's just this ongoing thing that as you continue to allow a very bad person to be out in the streets. I mean, now he's literally mayor. As you continue to allow them to live because you are morally saying you won't kill them. And then you're morally telling everybody else around you who wants to kill him that they shouldn't kill him. And you're stopping them every time they try to kill him. You are allowing him to continue to take innocent lives.
A
A man like Kingpin is not innocent.
I hear your argument. I do. I just think when you're looking at a character like Matt, you have to take into account how he was raised.
And
what his
that.
deeply
That's not my
entrenched
argument
beliefs
anymore.
are.
That's not my argument anymore. Honestly, release Karen. Release the baby. Like, I don't even care. Release her on the streets and let her do what she needs to do because honest to God, she's going to get work done. She is determined.
I am curious because I don't think we're going to solve this moral dilemma today because the show hasn't solved it. And also it's just like a genuine moral dilemma. What do we think's in store for Karen? Because she's now captured by none other than little turd Powell.
I wonder if that's when Matt's finally going to snap.
It would be interesting. I don't think they're going to kill her because
no, I don't think they'd kill her because they already killed off Foggy. And I think it'd be kind of crazy to me to have even bothered bringing her back.
I agree.
Although it would be very
advocating
interesting
for them to kill her. I don't want them to do that.
Although it would be very interesting if they did because of this entire argument. She is the loudest voice against Matt, and they just had a massive argument prior to this now about if you would just kill these people, everybody we care about and all the innocent people wouldn't continue to die. Well, now it'd be her life.
I mean, look it would shake things up. It would shake things up.
It would. And like, listen, Vanessa was part of it too. Let's not pretend she wasn't, but she wasn't a murderer to that extent.
She was a hands-off. She was a
hands-off, but she wasn't Kingpin level. Yeah. She was involved. She's still relatively innocent in the grand scheme of some of the players on the board. And so, again, it'd be another life lost at the hands of these people because they won't just kill each other.
Yeah. Speaking of, is this the first episode that Matt and Kingpin have actually interacted face-to-face this season? I think it is.
I think so.
I found that whole scene to be really confusing and weird. Like,
I agree. And I couldn't figure out if Matt was letting him just hit him.
It was like he wanted to talk him down and like weirdly give his condolences. I was like, Matt, this is like, no, what are you doing? Like, I understand, but I also don't.
This is Matt's moral code on
I was
full
like,
display.
Dude, I get that you have like 10 plus years worth of history between the two of you, but like, that's insane. That's an insane choice. And I get he was trying to like maybe talk him down, but then he said like the exact worst thing that could have possibly been said, which set him off. And then they just like fought each other and Matt walked away. When Kingpin asked, well, this is where you're gonna be like, I was right. When Kingpin asked him that very question of like, what are you gonna do to me now? Like it is an ongoing question of like,
it's becoming almost laughable because even Kingpin is sitting there like, you're not gonna kill me.
Right.
And
as we've seen, jail won't do anything.
Hold him. And he said that too. Because he said, what are you gonna do? Put me in jail?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was happy the two were in the same room again because I think those are some of the most intense and like most entertaining scenes is watching those two go at it. But I felt like this one was like a little bit out of place. It was like a let me spar you and then I'm going to pull back. And I was like, what was the point of this? Like,
well, I was like so confused because I really was like, Matt, are you like purposely not putting up a good fight right now to like let him get his anger out? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know.
Because otherwise I was like, no, you're just getting your butt whooped then. So like clearly like
it's usually a more even fight. So I don't know what was going on.
I don't know if it was meant to kind of convey like the emotions are so like viscerally strong right now for Kingpin that is making it an uneven fight. I don't know if that was what was meant to be happening. I don't understand. It was a weird interaction. It didn't last long.
No.
And then we moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was weird. I mean, I'm assuming and I'm hoping we see more of them actually interacting in the last 2 episodes, because I literally was sitting there like, oh my god, they've literally not been in the same room this entire
Well, it's so
season so
interesting
far.
because we spent so much of last season with them interacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about, because we have been on Daniel watch for an entire season now. My guy. I mean, look, on one hand, I thought he was going over the line this episode because of everything that happened last episode. Then he's confronting BB and basically saying, I can't keep protecting you. He continued to protect her with Buck, which I was shocked. I really thought after last episode, I was like, wow, Daniel, okay, backbone. Then he finds the SD card. He confronts her about the whole thing. He doesn't know that she's actually the parody Fisk. He just thinks she's working with them, which is, I mean, he finds that out. That's going to like be crazy. But
the smartest thing BB has ever done has decided not to send that fake information.
Yeah, for sure.
She doesn't know that was the smartest decision she's ever made, but she just made the smartest decision like ever.
Yeah. And I'm really like, I thought I had such a clear path forward for Daniel in my head for how his narrative was going to go for the remainder of the season and into next, assuming he still is a character, which I hope he is. I find him fascinating. And now I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm back to he could go either way. I could see a world where, you know, she's able to kind of bring him back.
I actually think he's so fixated on BB that I think he can be pulled away. And I don't know if she's playing the game or actually starting to genuinely also have feelings for him. But I think if it's genuine, especially, I think she can pull him away from the ledge.
I didn't think she could after last episode, but I think she might be able to. And I also think Buck overplayed his hand this episode a little bit when Daniel was clearly having clearly crashing out because he just buried a dead body, which I get it. You know, you're a normal kid from Staten Island. Next thing you know, you're burying bodies for the mayor. Yeah. And then Buck has a whole speech about if you protect the house protects you and all this stuff. I think he overplayed his hand a little bit, and I think he scared Daniel.
And I think he's overwhelmed, and instead of trying to help him, he overwhelmed him further.
Yeah, he applied more pressure, which is the exact opposite of what Daniel needed.
Yes, I agree. And I think this, and we talked about this last episode, this is where that difference between Wesley and Buck comes. Buck is not in that way the same strategist that Wesley was. Wesley understood the business, understood all angles, and was in and out of it, front and back, and actually understood the entire web of it and was 5 feet ahead and 5 steps ahead of everybody else involved.
Yeah.
That is not Buck. They are not one for one. I know I said that last episode. They are not one for one. Also, Buck's going to misstep somewhere with Heather. I could tell that's going to happen.
He already did. What was that weird?
I don't know. Why is she even a character? Like, I
was happy she was at the funeral because I was like, continuity. Like, she clearly had a relationship with the couple.
But and why are we like even focusing on her at this point? Like, I literally was like, there's so much happening. I cannot even think about the fact that you're getting 3 minutes out of this episode to choke Buck because of your trauma. What?
And steal from Vanessa? Steal from the woman who died? I was like, girl, what are you doing?
I'll be honest, I had a very brief thought when she was in the bedroom that Kingpin was going to come in. I was going to be like, could you be the next Vanessa? I had a brief thought. It was weird. But I could see
one of those intrusive thoughts that like formulated all the way.
Well, I just like suddenly could see like I was like a weird opportunity is arising here. And like I was like, why would she be in the bedroom? Then she stole the earrings and I was like, oh no, I know. Oh, okay. And then Buck appeared. That whole thing, weird. I don't even want to talk about it further. I'm sure that has to come to fruition for some reason. Like, honestly, if you're like psychotic now, I got a man chained to a bed that I think would be just your type.
Yeah, except like, he wears a mask and she doesn't do masks.
Not all the time.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Sure, he won't wear a mask all the time.
And I love Buck, but like that was weird.
Weird. He's just been like, weird the past few episodes. They're like trying to increase his character, but it's happening awkwardly.
Well, I do want to say though, I think the comparison between him and Wesley was smart because I think it's showing Buck's lack of finesse, but like he like bungled it with Daniel, then he bungled it with Heather. And I'm like, you're not reading the room as well as you think you are, and it's like you're just making it weird, buddy, for like literally everyone involved.
Yes.
Like you're clearly warped by the things that you have done to gain everyone and then maintain this position.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am unsure. The whole Buck and Heather, don't know what's happening there.
I think that storyline needs to die a quiet death. I don't know. I don't need any more Heather.
I don't need any more Heather either. There's too much else happening. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But then also, like, yes, the Daniel stuff, I think Buck is not understanding the influence that BB does have on him. Yeah. And I actually think the misstep, which would be crazy, would be if he goes after BB.
Oh, yeah. Because Daniel will have to choose a side and he will choose BB. Yeah.
And especially now, I actually think, I don't know. I mean, from like a logistical point of view, obviously BB out of the picture is good for Kingpin. But knowing that Kingpin's in some weird headspace right now after just losing his wife, I don't know, going after BB would be Buck's smartest move.
Yeah. Because we've talked about this a lot, how much Kingpin sees of himself in Daniel. Yes. And it's like watching Daniel go through the same thing at a younger age.
I don't think that would go well. I think that would be an interesting misstep that could really also, like, essentially his cabinet is falling apart.
Yeah. I mean, Heather's literally like 2 drinks away from like I don't even know. She's on
something. Well, and even what's her face, who's the campaign manager whose name is currently escaping me?
Sheila,
she's in with the governor.
Yeah. The governor wants her to... Did you catch that? The governor wanting her to run. And I was like, all right, we already know that happens.
Yep. So that's why I'm like...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting, and I'm just so intrigued because we have 2 more episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating. I'm excited. I think this was like a weird episode to like get things going, but I think looking back at it when we're done with the season, we're going to be like, I see what episode 6 did to set up 7 and 8. I just think I was expecting more explosiveness, which is fine. They chose to kind of keep it restrained for 1 more episode. I will just put a little warning out there to Marvel Studios. If you don't go like bonkers in the last 2 episodes, I will be very frustrated. I just want to lay that out there because that's what I'm expecting. That's what your cast has hyped up. So like meet my expectations that your cast went out of their way to set. That's all.
Fair. That's fair.
That's it.
Okay.
Well, I think that is everything for episode 6. Of course, we'll be back covering episode 7 next week as hopefully things ramp up. You can check out our website, which is linked in the show notes, has everything you need for the show, including our calendar, and also check out our Buy Me a Coffee, which is also linked in the show notes below. Last but not least, make sure that you're following the show on your podcast platform of choice if you aren't already.
You guys can also give us a follow on all of our socials, which are linked in the show notes down below as well. And join us again next week as we take on episode 7 as we are finishing Daredevil Born Again season 2, the final 2 episodes. So we're hoping you guys are liking it as Marvel just blew your mind. So let's talk about it.